The modern world doesn't excite me. I want trees, the scents and colors, the shifting shadows of the wood, which speaks a language only a few understand. I sometimes wish I could simply disappear in it.
All right, let's jump right in today. We're doing a deep dive into the world of Mbu,
Mbu, yeah, a village in Cameroon.
and it's going to be a fascinating one, I think. We've got a book here called Mbu-My-Village, written by someone who actually grew up there.
Oh, fantastic. First-hand account. Always the best.
Yeah, so it should be a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
But we're also going to be pulling in some additional context, specifically around the Bantu migration across Africa.
Right, because to understand the specifics of Mbu, you need that wider historical lens.
Exactly. So let's start with the book's description of Mbu. It's nestled in the mountains, surrounded by hills and forests. Sounds idyllic, right?
Sounds like it until you realize it actually has a savanna-like environment.
It's true. And it's dominated by something you wouldn't expect in that region, kola nut trees. They're everywhere except for the hills. The book says there are particularly dense forests of them in areas called Futu and Mambin.
That's interesting. Kola nut trees dominating a savanna. It hints at a deliberate introduction, possibly linked to the Bantu migrations.
Yeah, you're right. It does. It's like this little breadcrumb trail.
That's a great way to think about it. Now, even the name Mbu itself has a story to tell. It started as Mumbo, but was changed to Baforchu by the German colonizers.
So even a village as remote as Mubu has been touched by those global forces.
Absolutely. And that ba prefix is key. The Germans used it to denote the people of. So Baforchu literally means the people of Fanacho, the ruler at the time.
Ah, so a name change that reflects a power shift.
Yes, it's a very subtle reminder of how colonialism inscribed itself onto local identities. But getting back to that kola nut, the book reveals how deeply intertwined it is with Mumbu's social fabric, especially for the women.
Right, they have this powerful organization, the Rakombing, right?
Yeah, imagine a group of women, they're chanting, performing rituals, essentially dictating the rules for the entire kola nut season. They even have the authority to pronounce curses on anyone who disobeys.
Wow, that's intense. So it's not just about gathering nuts, it's a whole cultural and spiritual practice.
Exactly. The book even mentions some specific rules. No climbing trees that aren't yours, no using sticks to pluck the nuts, and absolutely no lights in the forest at night. It's almost like a sacred test.
And all under the watchful eyes of the ancestors. Which brings us to another key aspect of Mbu's culture, ancestral worship. It permeates everything, from family rituals to village-wide ceremonies.
And it's not a passive belief. The people of Mbu actively seek their ancestors' guidance and protection.
The book mentions how during the polio epidemic, the villagers appealed to their ancestors, and according to local belief, the village was spared.
Right, so the kola nut season takes on a whole new meaning. It's not just about economics, it's about connecting with those ancestors.
Ensuring their blessings for a bountiful harvest.
Exactly. Okay, now let's zoom out a bit and connect Mbu to that larger story of the Bantu migration, that incredible journey across Africa.
Okay, give me the crash course. What were the key points of the Bantu expansion?
Well, imagine this. Thousands of years ago, groups of people, likely originating in West Africa around modern-day Nigeria and Cameroon, started moving, driven by things like climate change, resource scarcity, and maybe even a spirit of adventure. And they spread across vast swaths of sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow, that's a huge movement of people. What impact did they have?
A massive impact. They were skilled agriculturalists, bringing with them crops like sorghum and millet. And they were masters of ironworking, introducing new technologies and cultural practices as they migrated. The Bantu migrations shaped everything from agriculture and social structures to the very languages spoken today. Really one of the most significant events in African prehistory.
So how does all of this connect back to Mbu?
Well, the author of Mbu-My-Village believes that the Widdicombe people, of which the Mbu clan is a part, were among those Bantu groups that migrated along the Sanaga River. And remember those kola nut trees, likely introduced by the migrating Bantu.
So the kola nut becomes more than just a crop. It's a symbol of their migratory past.
Precisely. A living link to their ancestors' journey. And there's further evidence. The use of the mvet instrument in Mbu, which is also found among the Fang people, another Bantu group. The book even includes a rather chilling statement about cannibalism being traced within some factions of the Widdicombe tribe.
Oh, wow. That's definitely not what I was expecting.
Right, a complex and multifaceted history.
Okay, so the Mbu people are part of this incredibly vast and complex Bantu heritage. carrying echoes of that migration in their language, customs, even their kola nut trees. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. It shows how interconnected we all are across continents and millennia. But now, let's zoom back in and focus on the specific history of Mbu. The book mentions a list of fons, or kings, who ruled after their migration. But there's a curious shift in the line of succession after the 8th fon, Njiarizak.
What happened?
Well, up to that point, the rule was hereditary, father to son. But after Njiarzak, we see rulers with names like Mokoroka I, indicating a break from that tradition. And that's where the story of the Renjoh people comes in.
The Renjoh people.
Mhm.
Tell me more.
They were nicknamed Bonkan Regi, which means children from the weaver bird's nest. You know those communal birds that build elaborate nests together where the young are cared for by the whole flock?
Wow.
That's the image this nickname evokes. The Renjoh were known for their exceptionally strong family bonds.
Okay, I see the connection. But why would that lead to a disruption in the line of succession? You'd think strong family ties would reinforce hereditary rule.
Right. That's where it gets interesting. While their unity was a source of strength, it also seems to have sparked fear. Like their collective power was perceived as a threat, possibly fueled by some conflict between the Fon and his brother within the Renjoh family.
Ah, so it wasn't just about family ties, it was about power dynamics.
Exactly. When Njiarzak died, the kingmakers, perhaps influenced by this underlying fear, decided to break from tradition. They chose someone outside of his immediate family.
So the Renjoh lineage was sidelined, at least temporarily.
Yeah, but according to the book, this caused turmoil. The gods were not pleased. So to appease them, one of Njiarzak's sons was eventually given this special title, Indi Funmevu, to acknowledge the importance of the Renjoh lineage.
So they tried to have it both ways.
Yeah.
Break from tradition, but still placate the gods.
Right, acknowledge the Renjoh claim. It was a delicate balancing act, but it speaks to the complexities of power, tradition, and that delicate balance within a community navigating change and potential conflict.
For sure. Now there's another intriguing thread in this book, the story of the Rekom Gang dance. It's unique in Mbu because it's not tied to a family, but to a specific historical event.
Oh, yes. This is where we delve back into that Bafortu name given by the Germans, the people of Fanachu. The dance tells the story of Fanachu and his brother Akum, and their infamous dispute over a goat. Picture this. Fanachu, exercising his traditional right, took a goat to slaughter for a meal, not knowing it belonged to his brother Akum.
Oh, I can see where this is going.
Right. A recipe for disaster.
Mm.
The next day, Akum leads a group of hunters and they kill a leopard. Now, the leopard skin was highly prized. Akum wanted to present it to his brother as a gesture of respect, but to do so, he had to enter the palace hall, a place forbidden to anyone but the Fon.
And I bet that's where he found his missing goat.
You got it. A confrontation ensued, and in a fit of anger, Fanachu threw a blunt knife, at Akum. It was a tool used by palm wine tappers, not a weapon of war, but it became a potent symbol of the rift between the brothers.
So a seemingly minor dispute escalated into a major conflict, all because of a goat and a misplaced knife.
Exactly. Akum, feeling wronged and supported by villagers who sympathized with him, decided to break away, formed his own village named Mbe after the knife. And the Rekamgong dance, with its lyrics recounting this story, keeps this historical division alive.
Wow, it's amazing how a simple object like a knife can become so deeply entwined with history and identity. And the dance itself becomes a way of transmitting that story. It's like a living history lesson.
It is, and it's a reminder of how seemingly small events can have these lasting consequences, shaping the social and even geographical landscape. And the story doesn't end there. Akum's son, Forba, ended up founding another village, Ba, after a dispute over cowries.
So from one original village, we now have 3. And they're all connected by this shared history, these tales of family feuds, and the desire for autonomy.
It really is like watching a family tree branch out.
Each new branch representing a different path, a different story.
And those stories often revolve around power, ambition, and that delicate balance between individual desires and the needs of the community.
Mbu is more than just a picturesque village. It's a place where human dramas have played out for generations, leaving their mark on the landscape and in the people's collective memory.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that even within a seemingly unified culture, you always have those internal tensions, power struggles, and individuals who dare to forge their own paths.
You know what really strikes me as we keep unpacking this book about Mbu? It's how the author captures the essence of being human. You know, those universal experiences we all share, but against the backdrop of this very unique village.
It's true. It's like looking through a window into a world that's both familiar and utterly foreign at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the most powerful themes is the Mbu people's profound respect for their ancestors. And their mourning rituals, they're elaborate. It's not just about grief, it's about maintaining that connection with those who have passed on.
The book really paints a vivid picture of those rituals. When someone dies, the whole village comes together to weep, cry, share stories about the deceased.
Oh, yeah. And here's a fascinating detail. The distance from which you begin crying as you approach the bereaved family actually signifies how close you were to the person who died.
Wow. So your level of grief is almost like a visual representation of your relationship with the deceased.
Exactly.
That's so powerful. The author also mentioned that people would rub themselves in the mud as a sign of their grief.
It seems like such a raw, visceral expression of sorrow.
It does.
And what's remarkable is that no one is forced to cry. It's spontaneous, a genuine outpouring of emotion, a collective release.
But underlying this collective grief is this belief that no death is truly natural,
Yeah.
that someone is always responsible.
Right, which really speaks to their worldview. The spirit world is intertwined with the physical world.
Yeah.
And this highlights the role of the Kwifon, that secretive organization we talked about.
Yeah.
They're not just security guards, they're investigators, trying to determine the cause of death, performing rituals to appease the spirits, restore balance.
Right. And the book actually makes this distinction between two types of offenses that require ritual cleansing: echop and ebinu.
Yes, so echop refers to actions by one person that directly harm another, while ebinu is more about self-inflicted harm, like suicide. But in both cases, the focus is on restoring harmony within the individual and within the community. It's not about punishment, it's about healing, reconciliation,
That's such a different way of thinking about justice, isn't it?
restoring balance rather than assigning blame.
Yeah. It speaks to a worldview where individual actions have these ripple effects throughout the community, where the spiritual and social well-being are deeply interconnected.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about the physical layout of Mbu. The book kind of gives us this walking tour of the village, starting with Suge, the entrance. It's nestled between Maformasong Mountain and the Aesop Plateau.
Right. And that's where we find the Presbyterian School Mbu, later transformed into the government high school Mbu, played a big role in educating generations of Mbu children, even kids from neighboring villages.
And the author talks about his memories of the school, especially the mischievous escapades with his friends, like stealing unripe bananas from Ne Mecho's coffee farm.
Yeah. A reminder that even amidst all the seriousness of tradition and ritual, childhood is still a time for exploration, mischief, those formative friendships. Absolutely. And then the tour takes us to Injinminam. That's the quarter where the blacksmiths settled. And there's this kind of eerie story about hearing the sounds of blacksmiths working at midday if an important Minam person has died.
It's like this ghostly echo, a reminder that those who have passed on, their presence is still felt.
It definitely adds a layer of mystique, blurs the lines between the world of the living and the dead.
It does. Then we come to Tsugasap, which is named after the cooperative hall that once stood there. This was the heart of the village. Dances, social events, political meetings, even served as a marketplace.
The author describes it as a school for everything good and bad, where kids would peek through the windows, watching the adults dance and kind of learn about life.
But progress, as they say, often comes at a price. The Tsugasap Hall was eventually demolished to make way for a road,
Oh,
a symbol of development, change, but also a loss of this vital communal space.
it's interesting how the physical landscape of the village really reflects those forces that have shaped it, both internal and external.
Absolutely. And as we continue our tour, we encounter the Mibafu and Menja quarters, the Catholic school and church, the New Bell quarter, and finally, the bustling Mban market.
The market sounds like it was a vital hub, not just for Mbu, but for surrounding villages.
Oh, definitely. A place to buy and sell goods, exchange news, catch up with people.
And it was held on Miban, that special day in the Mbu week.
Right. Their week has 8 days, not 7, sets them apart, highlights their unique cultural identity.
Oh, that's right. And chiefs were always said to die on Miban or Q the day after.
Adding an element of ritual and symbolism to their passing.
Yeah. It's like their deaths were woven into the fabric of time itself.
Exactly. And as we move further down, we cross the Gayinkian, a bridge that leads to Lakamubu, a fertile area for farming. We encounter quarters like Mukuku, famous for its cocoyams, and Evanlaka, known for its maize, beans, yams.
It's a reminder that agriculture was and still is the backbone of Mbu's economy.
Absolutely.
And the land itself holds this special significance for the people.
Speaking of the land, let's revisit that kola nut.
Oh, yeah.
The book delves into its cultural significance, the beliefs and rituals surrounding it.
Right. The women's organization, the recombing, plays such a central role in setting the rules for the kola nut season. And they don't mess around.
No, they don't.
They're not afraid to pronounce curses on those who break the rules, like using sticks to pluck the nuts or going into the forest at night with lights.
It speaks to their authority, their deep connection to the land. They're not just harvesting a crop. They're engaging in this spiritual practice.
Honoring the ancestors, ensuring the continued fertility of the land.
Right. And there's also this sense of mystery surrounding the origin of the kola nut trees. When asked who planted them, the elders would simply say, the squirrel.
Which is such an intriguing answer.
It's like they're acknowledging the limitations of human knowledge, recognizing that some things are best left unexplained, shrouded in that blend of observation, tradition, and respect for the natural world.
It is. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound answers lie not in scientific explanations, but in that wisdom passed down through generations.
Yes, in the stories and myths that shape a culture's understanding of itself and its place in the world.
Exactly.
And as we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive, I think it's important to emphasize this book isn't just a collection of facts and anecdotes. It's a tapestry woven from lived experience, cultural insights, and a deep appreciation for the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit.
It's a story that resonates far beyond the borders of Mbu, offering us a glimpse into a world that's both unique and universal, where tradition and change are constantly this dialogue shaping the lives and destinies of this community. As we enter this final part of our deep dive into Mbu, I'm struck by how the book shifts its focus. It's like we zoom in, from the wide-angle lens of the village to this really intimate perspective of the author's own childhood.
Yeah. It's through those personal anecdotes that we connect with the human side of Mbu, experiencing the world through the eyes of a child growing up amidst all this tradition and community, and such a deep connection to nature.
And there are these beautifully simple moments that he describes, playing games under the moonlight, gathering wild fruits in the forest.
And remember the renning, that rope swing they used to swing from hill to hill?
Oh, yeah.
Like little monkeys soaring through the air. It captures that sense of freedom, that joy that's so unique to childhood.
Oh, I can practically feel the wind in my hair just imagining it. But of course, it wasn't all carefree play. The author also shares some moments of fear, danger, like the time he and his brother went into the deep forest searching for this special type of mushroom called Renjoh.
Oh, yeah. Surrounded by all those sounds of the forest, rustling leaves, the calls of strange birds. And then they heard the cry of an owl.
Ooh, chills. In many cultures, owls are associated with bad omens. What's their significance in Mbu?
Well, in Mughal culture, the owl is a creature of the night, linked to witchcraft and evil spirits. Imagine these 2 young boys alone in the darkening forest, every rustle of leaves amplifying their fear.
It's a powerful reminder of how deeply those beliefs shape our experience of the world, especially as children.
Absolutely. The author also talks about the more mundane aspects of childhood, spending hours searching for lice in each other's hair.
Right.
Which might seem strange to us, but in a community where close physical contact is the norm, it was just a part of daily life.
It's those everyday details that really transport you to another place and time. And of course, there was the work. Weekends meant helping out on the farm, and it sounds like the coffee harvest was particularly brutal.
Yeah. The author describes those painful blisters on his hands from clearing the fields. Early morning trips to the stream to wash the beans, the constant battle against mosquitoes, and those tiny vicious insects called mut-mut.
It definitely wasn't all idyllic. There was hard work, hardship, a constant struggle. But there was also that sense of purpose, contributing to the community, a shared sense of resilience.
For sure. They worked together, supported each other, and they celebrated their shared heritage. Remember those lively Saturday night guitar dances held at the Sugasop Cooperative Hall?
Oh yeah, those dances sound amazing. A chance for the villagers to come together, socialize, let loose.
And for the kids, it was this forbidden world that they just longed to be a part of. The author recounts how he and his friends would sneak out their windows at night, all dressed to impress, hoping to sneak into that dance hall.
I love that. It's such a universal experience, that yearning to be part of the adult world.
Exactly. But even if they couldn't get in, they created their own fun, building bonfires, telling stories, playing games under the moonlight.
It's a beautiful reminder that joy and creativity can flourish in the simplest of circumstances.
Fueled by imagination, the bonds of friendship. And as the author reflects on his childhood, it's clear those experiences had a profound impact on him,
Yeah.
shaping his values, his worldview.
He learned the value of hard work, the importance of community, the interconnectedness of the physical and spiritual realms.
He witnessed the resilience of the human spirit, the simple joys that life offers, the enduring power of tradition to bind people together.
And as we reach the end of our deep dive into Mbu, I'm just left with this sense of gratitude for this book.
Me too.
The window it opened to a world so different from our own, yet so deeply resonant with the human experience.
It makes you appreciate the importance of preserving those cultural heritages, understanding what shapes our identities, celebrating the richness and diversity of human experience.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a question. What aspects of Mbu's culture resonated most with you? What does it make you think about your own sense of community, belonging? We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, given you a new perspective on the world. Keep exploring, keep asking questions. Until next time.